Actually, it's the lead play in our offense.
Tell the tackle to take the defensive end if he's over him. If he's not, you drive down the first man who is inside. Fullback, you tell him to take the first man outside the offensive tackle. No one shows. Go right by them and field inside. If the YN has the linebacker taken out, he cuts inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, he comes all the way around. So look at this play. What we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here, and try to run this play in the alley.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out at packernet.com. You can find me on Twitter at Packers_access. I'm joined alongside Jacob from the Packernet Fantasy Podcast. We got Tim live in Green Bay. We got a packed house in the chat. I want to give a quick shout out really quick to a couple of people that were tuned in last night. Like I said, for whatever reason, our chat on our end here on StreamYard locked up from time to time. So we didn't see where United Bates had actually donated memberships to some of the listeners. So again, United Bates, thank you so much for being a blessing, buddy. I can't say that enough. And also Godsmack AR69 actually did another super chat that got lost in the shuffle simply because it wasn't popping up on our end. So what I'm doing tonight is I've got a second monitor pulled up and I'm monitoring YouTube. So hopefully that doesn't happen again. And Jacob, if you've got one going too, Tim, if you guys do at any point, just cut me off and say, hey, you got a super chat that's not showing up. All right. But with that being said, you know, had a little bit of time to sleep on the game. I think I got like 4 or 5 hours of sleep last night. So we're a little wore down. But I'll tell you this, when I woke up this morning, you know, I felt a lot better about the game. I really did. I went back and watched it again. I'm on my second pass through, like I was telling Tim, actually cutting the video clips for Chalk Talk right now. And to me, the fact that so many things went wrong in certain moments of the game and you still only lose by 3 points shows you how close this team is week in and week out. Granted, you're never going to win. I don't think you're ever going to win in the NFL throwing 3 interceptions in one game personally, but you know, the defense stepped up time and time again. I was so proud of the defense after going back and watching it and just seeing how every third down they just step up. Bang, sack, in the drive, right? Or push them out of field goal range in some instances. So, Jacob, how do you feel about the game today, man? One sleep removed, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I'm still a little salty. And I watched it about an hour ago, just trying to replay as much as I could. And I got the same feeling. I'm watching it and I'm like, man, we were in this game the whole game. Like we were right there the whole game. And I don't know. A lot of it is me kind of going back and forth on whether or not I think Jordan Love is still a great quarterback or if we should tank for, Caleb or something like that. I do want to know, can you pull this up on the fly? Because somebody told me, and I remember this stat, or maybe I read it just on the quick, the O-line, they gave up 14 pressures, but only 1 sack. After everything, I feel like I just watched nothing but Crosby burying people into the ground. So I'm not sure if you guys can pull that up on the fly, but if that's the case, I mean, 14 pressures is pretty crazy. I do remember, and we'll get into it here going in, that there was a few pass blocking grades that I was kind of surprised by as far as PFF with, again, as much as it looked like we were watching poor Jordan Love just run around like a chicken with his head cut off. I mean, then there's a few other things we can get into that were a little bit surprising, but I now that I've slept on it, I still now find myself more of the blame. I'm trying to find someone to blame. And I know that's
the American way.
I was going to say that's such a 2023 American thing to do.
Exactly.
But to me, again, it more falls somewhere at Matt LaFleur's, because this seems to be a consistent thing where when I listened to his press conference, I got about halfway through it before we had to jump on here live again. He said a lot of the stuff. Oh God, my dog is zombie walking. Sorry.
You guys are wondering what's up with Jacob's dog. He had ear surgery, and let's just say this is the only thing he's comparable to.
My knee.
got the old Aaron Rodgers glossy eyes from the Perk game. So pray for the little guy. Look at him back there. He's like, I'm going back to bed, man. You kidding me?
Almost. He might take it now, but
Oh man, he's got to
Yeah.
find that comfortable side there. There you go. Yeah.
Good spot right there. Go ahead, Jake.
no, I mean, I was just more. What were we talking about? Sorry, I just completely.
You asked about the sacks. I did pull up. ESPN box score is showing 2 official sacks. So it was Max Crosby had 1 and Trayvon Morey had 1.
This was according to PFF. I know they score their sacks weird at PFF for some reason, differently than normal. But yeah, still, if it's 2 sacks, even I thought in my head,
Felt like it was 30.
yeah, I thought it felt like there was 5 or 6 at least, and that was a little bit surprising to me. One of the other things that I can't remember exactly what I was going to talk to you guys about. Oh, just another thing that just seems so glaring. In the last 3 games, I read that we are outscored 54-6 in the first half. Like, how you talked about how we've been so bad, and yet things are still seemingly kind of. We still can see that the glass is half full. Looking at that stat alone, I feel like we should be 0-5. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't. It's a crazy stat to come back from, and if anything, and now that made me think, like, man, maybe Barry should get way more credit than he is, you know, than hate. Obviously, I don't know what to think. And now, the blame to me, I got to direct it right back at Matt LaFleur. I got a conspiracy corner. Maybe he is so jealous of Joe Barry.
Hold that thought. Don't even say it yet. Let's cue it up. We got to cue it up. Here we go. You ready? Let's do it. It's wrong. All right, Jacob, let's hear it. What's the conspiracy, man? Spill it, Dr. Joe Rogan.
I mean, we've been hearing about how Joe Barry has all these first round, talent, 8 guys, first round talents. Why aren't they good? Joe Barry secretly has been giving us a comparable defense that's putting, not allowing offenses to score above 20 while our offense is throwing 3 interceptions. I mean, I'm just saying, what if Matt LaFleur all of a sudden starting to notice that people are onto him, that he knows nothing, that the whole Shanahan tree, he's the bottom of the rung. He's just the dirty apple that already fell off. He's rotting on the ground. Now he has to look around and he's trying to save himself. So what he's doing, he's going to throw Joe Barry under the bus. That's what he's going to do. Now he's just going to say, I don't know if you watched the press conference. He did kind of throw some shade at Joe Barry.
I tell you, man, I do not understand it either. I went back and watched it, and I'm just going. The high point of that game, the highlight of that game was the defense. There's no 2 ways about it. Like, how many times Jordan Love gave them the ball back, and then the defense stepped right back up and held them to a field goal there, deep in their territory. And then later in the game, when you needed to stop to get the ball back to your offense to give them a chance to win the game, they came up big again. 17 points, and like I said, 17 points, and your quarterback threw 3 interceptions. Like, I don't know, man. I'm not seeing it. And again, there were 2 plays that were like, that looks funny on tape. One of which really had no impact on the game at all, in my opinion, because they ended up, I think, blocking a field goal later that drive. But again, it makes for a pretty screenshot for a bunch of drunkards that just want Joe Barry fired. And listen, are there better defensive coordinators out there? I guarantee you there are. And do I want them to go hire one? Absolutely. But if you're asking me what's the problem isn't Joe Barry. The problem is lack of execution. And then last night, the defense executed fairly well with the exception of a few missed tackles and Darnell Savage kind of losing his mind on what should have been an interception, right? Other than that, Tim, I mean, I don't know what else you could ask out of this defense, especially that's missing not just Devondre Campbell, but we're also missing Quay Walker as well. And of course, Rashawn Gary, I do want to get to the snap count because someone brought up last night. They felt like, I think it was you, right, Jacob? You felt like Rashawn didn't have that many snaps. Did you ever get a snap count?
I didn't look at it. I didn't take a specific note of it, but I did have that question last night. And now that you mentioned it, I am very curious about that.
Yeah, I'll see if I can pull that up. But Tim, how do you feel after a night of sleep, man? Do you feel any different about it?
I'm kind of split between you guys. I feel a little bit better. Again, we were in the game the entire game. It never got completely away from us. I mean, it depends on how you look at it. I mean, it came down to that last drive, maybe a split second decision the other way, and we're having a totally different conversation than we did last night. But I'm just looking at my notes. I don't know if we won the middle 8. Maybe we can get into that when we break
It
down.
was 0-0. I'm pretty sure.
0-0. Okay. So I guess what I'll say is we didn't tuck our tails and go away in the middle 8. When Preston Smith on that 3rd and goal with the PBU getting his hands up and just, holding them to a field goal was huge. I got in my notes here too. Defense banged up but grinding, keeping us in the game. And that was kind of the story. We were thin and not playing entirely to our potential at the same time. Yet we were still in the game. So, I don't think you can put this all on the defense in this one, and certainly not on Joe Barry.
Yeah, for sure. That's kind of how I see it. Looking at the snaps, so Jacob, Rashawn Gary had 30 snaps. So to put that into perspective, if you know the heavy rotation they like to use with edge rushers, Gary had, I believe, if I'm looking at this correctly, he had the most snaps of any edge defender. Okay, so let me just make sure. Preston Smith had 43. Then it was Rashawn Gary at 30. And Kingsley and Igbare at 29, Lucas Van Ness 26, right around that range. So still not a full workload, I think we feel comfortable saying, right?
That to me feels like that he should be like in the 50s. I mean, Crosby is a guy that's 70 plus snaps. I mean,
and look, Crosby was the villain last night, right? Like we absolutely you hated him as a player last night.
I respected him, dude. Are you kidding me? And by the way, Cheesehead Murph in the chat. What up, Murph?
Man, yeah, we got that. That jersey's going to be on its way here in the next day or two. So congratulations, Murph. We appreciate you, buddy. Yeah, and what I mean by that, Jacob, I'm saying he was the villain last night, but it's hard not to like the guy. He plays the game the right way. His background, his story, overcoming addiction, and all that. And he's just one of those guys, man. You want him on your football team, don't you, Tim? Would you love to see him lined up across from Rashawn Gary?
Oh man, absolutely. I mean, and besides the physical attributes and the type of player he is, he brings that extra. I've alluded to it a few other times. You always get a little bit more. It's always good too when you got a guy that can do it on the field and also get inside the opponent's head a little bit. And I certainly think he was giving them boys on the line all they could handle last night. So, and that was evident.
Definitely giving those tight ends all they could handle. That I'm telling you, man, you're going to hear me rant on Chalk Talk about this offense because they made things so much more difficult than it needed to be. I mean, and it was so many times pounding the rock. It's working, and then all of a sudden, all right, let's pull a guard. All right, let's run a sift block, opposite direction of the run action, and literally go -2 hack count on the run side because you wanted to get pretty and throw a sift out the backside, which made no sense. And I pray to sweet baby Jesus it was miscommunication, because if that was the plan, that's not a good plan.
Right.
So
right. Miscommunication, you can correct that, but if you've got a flawed approach, that's a whole nother ball game, right?
Can I say one thing quick? Right before I hopped on here, I was, you know how I like to wait. Just a little behind the scenes stuff, guys. If we go live at 7, I usually hop on like 7 or 6:58.
Oh, he's worse than Mandy. Mandy is late to everything.
I'm not late. I like to save our banter and all of it to be organic. So
comes in like 3 seconds. And I go, Jacob, man, how you doing? I'm all right. All right, well, here we go. Let's go live.
Hey, and then we just go live. It's fun that way. But what I was doing this time was I was trying to listen to as much as the Matt LaFleur press conference, the newest one. When I looked at it, it was like 52 minutes old. So I was listening to as much as I could. And in my head, I'm not gonna lie, I was taking a leak. And then as I'm doing it, I'm like, man, I hope by the time I'm done with this, I got to run to the computer and then put the headphones on. I hope Matt LaFleur says something about about the fact that he needs to simplify the offense. And I swear, as I'm finishing that thought, and I'm like getting my post,
we got.
and I'm ready to go. And he goes, and I think that this, a lot of it falls onto the coaching, and we have to look at each other and have a meeting, and maybe we need to figure out if we need to simplify, and if we're asking our guys to do too much, maybe in the tight end room, maybe in the O-line room. And I'm just like, oh, as I'm running, like,
but everywhere except play caller.
Well, no, and he
is that, like, what does that mean? I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
He did then acknowledge earlier in that press conference, he says that everybody needs to reevaluate. He said that I am first and foremost to blame for he acknowledged he made some really bad play calls, and that it was just, they were weird out of, like we talked about last night. It wasn't necessarily that the call, that the play is bad. It's the sequence and events as to which they were called. It just made everybody be like, what? Why would you? Why?
Right.
Why are you doing that right now? So it was just, again, it was one of those moments where it was almost like, hey, Matt, why don't you run the ball? You're really good. And he's like, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. And then this time they're like,
there's that aw shucks Matt LaFleur that we don't like, right?
But now he's getting very snippy. Like, but still at the same time, he's like,
listen, he's got to be frustrated, man. He's got to be frustrated. Imagine the worst work day you've had in the last 3 years, right?
That's true.
The worst work, and then you just finished that work day, and now it's, hey, come in here. We're gonna have 20 people that we know you don't like force questions into your face.
No, it's like as you're walking out to your car, you're like, hold on real quick. I want to gather all of your enemies, and they're just going to grill you for like 10 minutes. Just
right. ROK Beast in the chat. I like this. It's very thought-provoking. He said, you guys think we should go after our OC and change play calling duties? Is it possible to do it during a season 2? Here's how I feel when it comes to coaches, play calling, all that stuff. I want my head coach to be an offensive-minded coach, okay, because you win games by scoring points. And I understand defense wins championships. I got you. But I want a coach with a very, very, very organized background on the offensive side of the ball, really, specifically maybe of the quality control aspect, right? Have that in their lineage. I'm describing Mike McCarthy to a T, if you haven't noticed, right? That was his background. He was quality control, grew up in the West Coast offense, had a ton of experience under great coaches, and then stepped in, and he's this guy that's, hey, look, he's offensive minded, very, very, very organized. Everything has a place, and it's with a simplicity of a base of simplicity, I should say, right? When the problem is when you're the play caller, you lose track of other things, right? And a head coach's number one priority is to put together the best staff and put together the best team on the field, right? The head coach's top priority shouldn't be calling the best offensive or defensive game, right? Now, if a coach can do that, great, right? Because now it's all on him. He's, it's kind of like McCarthy taking over the play calling in Dallas. The reason he fired, I can't remember his name now, but basically he resigned. What was his name?
Kellen Moore.
Kellen Moore. The reason he resigned is because McCarthy basically told him, look, like, we've got to change things up. As a coordinator, you're trying to get a head coaching job, right? And as a coordinator, as an offensive coordinator, you're trying to score points. That's how you get your name out there. You want the top scoring offense, and you're going to get a ton of job interviews like you're going to see, the guy up there in Detroit get this coming year. It's going to happen. He's probably going to get hired as a head coach. So Kellen Moore's calling the game to score points, and as silly as that sounds, McCarthy's going, hold up, listen, there were several games last year that we lost because we were too aggressive when we had the lead, when what we really needed to do was run the football and protect our defense, right? So when a head coach calls the plays, that is the positive, is he's going to call it to win the game, not to put up points, right? If that makes sense. So that's something that comes into play too. But I think the perfect scenario is like what Andy Reid had there a few years ago, where he had Bieniemy calling plays. Andy Reid had his grasp on everything to do with the organization. He could manage the clock. He could manage all these things that's important for a head coach. He could, push those buttons on the players in real time, that type of thing. But as far as when you pull play calling duties from a coordinator midseason, it can be disastrous. It really can. Now, when you pull it from yourself, that's a whole different ballgame, right? And if anything, it might light a fire under the offense. Like, dang, we let our coach down. It wasn't him, it was us. Those type of things can happen. But I hope that answers your question. I think right now you just got to ride this season out, man. It's a young team. We knew there were going to be growing pains. There's a reason that many people picked them at 7.5 wins, right? Or either the over or under of 7.5. So, and that's the other thing too. When we talked about the point spread, I can't remember if it finished at 1.5 or 2 points last night before the game started. But look at the difference in the game. Vegas was all over it. But somehow, some way, as fans, and I'm as guilty as anyone, we go into the game thinking, oh, we should blow these guys out. And it's like, who says that, right? Like, any given Sunday, right? So anyway, didn't mean to go on that little tangent there, but I thought that was an interesting question. And let me get, what do you think? What do you guys think about it as far as play calling? Like, I'll read the question again. You guys think we should go after an OC and change play calling duties? Is it possible to do it during a season 2? What do you think, Jacob?
I think that depends on the coach and the team. I think that somebody like anybody that's out of the Shanahan tree, specifically those guys that were in that the podcast, what was it called? The coaching blah 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 podcast. Like, I think the ego there, you don't get to, like, basically that's a demotion. Those guys don't take demotions and they don't take it lightly. I don't see Matt LaFleur surrendering his play calling duties or any responsibilities publicly to another guy, having to hire somebody else so that they, I mean, maybe once he gets tenured and he has, he's on his second Super Bowl, third Super Bowl, and he's like, oh, you can be my whatever guy. Like Belichick probably has a Diet Coke guy. You know what I mean? Like,
oh no,
there it is. A Diet Coke
or an ice cream cone, right?
Yeah.
Tim, what do you think about that question, bub?
I mean, I agree with what Jacob's saying. Like, if there's going to be a change, it's going to come from within. Like, let's say he did relinquish play calling duties in this theoretical scenario. Who's he going to give them to? I don't see him bringing in outside help to turn over, calling his offense. So, we don't know. Maybe there's someone in quality control right now at 1265 working underneath Matt LaFleur. And for all we know, someone's in the wings, ready to take on that type of role. But, it's a thought-provoking question. Like you said, Clayton, like, there's nothing wrong with getting the wheels turning and thinking of things, but I think in all seriousness, I don't see that happening. And, mid-season, quarter of the way through the season, how often in NFL history have we seen that work out in a good way when you start, changing of the guard at the top levels of your organization, 5, 6, 7, 8 games into a season. I mean, I remember when, Coach McCarthy was let go with a few games left in the season, and we saw a lot of cowboy, and I mean, not Dallas Cowboy, I mean, cowboy type mentality football with an interim head coach, and the team was just kind of doing whatever they wanted to do. So, I mean, I don't know. I think if you make a change, you do that in an off season, not during the season.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. Drew D in the chat said that last interception was partly due to the circumstances. That's very true. I think that's a very fair statement, that last interception that Love threw. It's still, a bad interception, though, because he had check downs open. You got to know the situation. The time left, you got one time out, those things. It's still a negative, but you're right. Coming down to the wire there, you got to score a touchdown. You're probably going to be a little more aggressive than you should. But go ahead, Jacob.
No, I feel like that's another one of those things where we're giving this guy too much credit. I looked back and I couldn't see the all 22 yet, so I could be completely wrong. But in my opinion, yes, he had a check down, at least one. And then he also, and I think that we've seen him being able to, he has running ability and he can juke. He looked like he could at least get us within a yard to put us in a 4th and 1, if not get us a first down, at least with his legs. I believe we had another first down at that point. If not, we had at least enough time to spike it like that. You need to know that you just don't chuck it up. And then on the other side of it, I think that Watson definitely, he admitted, I believe, in a press conference that he needed to do more to come back and play that ball. I think two different interceptions, he admitted that he could have done more to play the ball a little bit more, aggressively. But I don't know. I'm still sour.
Tad Samato in the chat said, "Gut check 2008 Packers were 2-3 at this point."
Hey,
Now, here's what's crazy. There's two ways you can look at this, Tad. Let's go back to Aaron Rodgers' first year starting, right, which I believe was 08, if I remember correctly. They finished 6-10, right? So you go, okay, well, Rodgers turned out fine. The team turned out fine. It's just the growing pains, right? You go back and watch it, though. Rodgers played. I mean, he played. It's like when you look at the comparison across the board, touchdown to interception ratio, and I seen people on Twitter too. They were saying, "No, but Rodgers played great though. It was the defense that was horrible, and this and that." And I'm going, bro, he didn't play like Rodgers yet. Like, let's just pump the brakes a little bit on that. Deadfish says, "Blame me and now we can move on." Deadfish in here trying to fall on the sword, man. I love it. That's my guy right there. All right, let's see what else we got here. Everybody talking about the video that we posted there, said it was straight 90s editing. Well, I was a 90s kid, so that makes sense. Larry in the chat said, "I'm not too worried yet. It's probably perspective having lived through the 70s and 80s. Most of you have only known winning seasons and being a Super Bowl contender." I would say 95% of us fall into that category, Larry, and that's the fact, man. And anytime anybody brings that up, you get one of two reactions. You get a reaction where someone says, "Well, I don't want to hear that. That it doesn't matter. It doesn't have anything to do with now." And then you get my reaction, which is, "Thank God y'all held the flag up during those dark times and kept this thing going," because it'd been real easy to try to move that team out of Green Bay, right? So it's fans like you though that kept it moving forward. And yeah, we got to prevent that. We got to prevent going back to the 70s and 80s. There's no doubt about it. Boz in the chat said 14 points, in my opinion. That first pick was a guaranteed field goal. Very good point. And for them to stand up and stop that drive and keep it to a field goal was absolutely huge. And I can't believe we blocked the field goal. That still feels like the dream to me. Like I cannot believe we blocked the field goal. It's been so long. All right, we're gonna get back to the chat here in a second, gang. I know we fell behind, but I want to hit on some of these PFF grades and get everybody's take. I want to get your all's take in the chat as well. Let's start with the overall team weekly grades here, fellas. Let me get this chat off. And again, thank you so much for the chat there, boss. So this is just your weekly team grades. So against the Raiders, overall 67.1, offensively 58.3, passing grade 47.1. Pass blocking 75.0, receiving 56.0, running grade 76.1, run blocking 51.1, defensive grade 70.8, run defense 77.2, tackling grade, listen to this, 88.5, the best tackling grade. That might be the best tackling grade we've ever had under the Matt LaFleur era. Pass rush grade only 60.8. Coverage grade 64.8, and then special teams grade of 80.8. So special teams showed up. Pass blocking was solid. Running grade was good. Tackling was good. Run defense showed up. Defense overall, was pretty stout. That's when I look at those grades and you break it down into the three aspects of overall. 67.1 feels right. Offense 58.3 absolutely feels right. It was bad last night. It was real bad. Defensively 70.8. I think that's a fair grade. I think that's very accurate as well. I didn't realize the tackling grade was that good when you've seen, a couple people whiff like Jair out there on the edge and a couple others. But Rudy Ford, man, after watching the tape again, Jacob, man, he popped off the screen again. That dude was a tackling machine. He played arguably the best game he's played yet as a Green Bay Packer, in my opinion. I know the PFF grade won't suggest it when we hit it in a minute, but he was everywhere last night. But what do you think about that overall team grade there, Jacob?
Honestly, I thought maybe I'm mistaken, but I'm pretty sure they gave Ford a little bit of love in the individual grade. And I know that his last 3 games have been quite impressive. But yeah, I'm looking at that tackling grade. Have no idea how that's a thing. The run defense grade, I don't know. I'm a little bit blinded because I watched the end result and you feel like so gutted. But then you actually, when you look back and watch the game, you realize the offense was horrible. It was trash. It was a dumpster fire. But the defense really did play a pretty stout game. Jair, I gave a lot of a lot of grief too because of one specific play where he just took a bad angle. I don't even know if you could say it was a missed tackle because the angle was so bad. We can get to it in a second, but Jair ended up with a 77.6 tackle grade. So I don't know. This is maybe the first week that I'm actually very confused by what PFF's grading system was. I saw a couple other YouTubers and listened to some other podcasts that said that some similar kind of stuff where they're just like, man, I don't quite understand these grades this week, but we can dive into the specifics here in the individual grades in a second and see if you guys agree.
Yeah. So what do you necessarily disagree with right there, then, Jacob? If you feel like, okay, overall they don't line up with what you've seen, what do you think you disagree with the most there as far as those grades?
Probably the pass blocking grade, like 70. You're telling me this is the second best performance of the Green Bay's offensive line of the year. And just while I'm watching that game, I don't know. I just feel like Jordan Love is running for his life, specifically for Max Crosby, but just in general, he just never looked like. I know a lot of the passes were a lot of those quick flat routes, a lot of quick outs, a lot of slants, a lot of that kind of stuff. So he wasn't holding the ball. But to me, I don't know. That just seems like a very. And then the run grade of 76.1. I don't know. We talked about AJ Dillon having a decent day, but I think he ran it like 20 plus times for 70 yards, like a 3.8 average or something like that. So to me, that's okay. It's not great. I don't think that's 76.1 worthy.
But you got to keep in mind the grade itself. The yards aren't a reflection of the grade.
Right.
You know,
exactly. No, and that's
look at the run block, right?
Yeah, overall feel, I guess. And then the tackling grade, I did not expect it to be an 88.5. Like you said, quite possibly the best tackling grade we've had in Joe Barry's tenure for sure. So I don't know. It didn't seem, the grades don't seem like they match the flow of the game, but when you break it down specifically, it kind of makes a little more sense.
Yeah.
Visually.
What do you think, Tim? Are you kind of with Jacob or do you think, because when I look at the grades, the only thing that really pops out to me is the tackling grade. And it's just because, like I said, Jair, and there was a couple other missed tackles. Now, other than that, they were pretty solid. 88.5 is through the roof. That seems a little high, but what do you think there? Do you feel like those are accurate or not indicative of what you've seen?
For the most part, I feel like it's indicative of the type of game that we ended up with. We lost by 4 points, So I'm with Jacob on the pass block grade. That kind of stuck out to me almost as much as the 88.5 tackle grade on the other side of the ball. But I guess the only thing I can think of, to Jacob's point about like the flow of the game and what we're seeing in that moment, I think the pass block grade being higher is just an indication of the fact that, there was 2 sacks on Jordan Love. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if we have pressures, how many pressures or hurries, but maybe that's more of what we saw, or maybe it wasn't even necessarily pressures or hurries. It was just Jordan rolling left or rolling right to try and create. So I think some of those numbers can feel a little misleading when maybe they're not. And again, it's PFF. It's one metric.
Right.
We're weighing that out against what we're seeing. So I totally get where Jacob's coming from, because I felt that way initially too, that, a couple of those numbers jumped off the board. Like, wait, what? Like, what game were they watching? But when you kind of, hindsight is 2020, you go back and take a look at some of these plays, you can kind of see it. So it's, I think it's par for the course for what we saw was another incomplete game, another non-complimentary football game from the Packers, which is disheartening going into the bye. So,
and one of those sacks, keep in mind, this is going to blow your all's mind watching the tape earlier. One of those sacks was two sifting tight ends. Responsibility was to block Max Crosby. There wasn't even a tackle blocking Max Crosby. It was just 2 tight ends coming across the formation. And by the way, it's one that's an undrafted free agent that we signed a few weeks ago, and the other was Tucker Kraft, 3rd-round pick rookie. I was just like, that was the plan? that was the plan. What? So if you remove that too, keep in mind, which it is pass blocking. So I can kind of see your point. I think when you look at it overall, 2 sacks, the thing that I also take into consideration when it comes to how the offensive line plays is the 4-second mark, and the 4-second is being very, very generous. If the quarterback has a ball in his hand for 4 seconds, he deserves to get sacked. It's the NFL. Like, I think it was Brady that was something like 2.2 seconds was what he averaged getting the ball out. And people wonder why he was so good. It was that pre-snap assessment, post-snap adjustment, and being able to get the ball out quick. Let's move on to offense real quick. Well, let me check the chat here just to make sure we're not missing anything here. Here's a good one. Drew D says, what do you mean by non-complimentary football? Because we had 25 rushing attempts to 30 passing attempts.
I'll take that one. I mean, the defense was playing okay, and the offense was sputtering and putting 13 points on the board. Complimentary in my mind, when I said that, meant you're getting complete games on all phases. Your special teams. I mean, our special teams grade was good.
Yep.
In this game.
He played great, yeah.
The defense could have been better, but it was not a dumpster fire. The offense was a dumpster fire at times. So I guess that's what I meant by non-complimentary football. I didn't mean unbalanced. I just meant, not complimentary in the other phases of the game.
Yeah, and keep in mind too, there toward the end of the game, it was like 5-6 straight passes too. That's going to get that passing attempt up, right? And also, there was one drive where you literally ran 3 passing plays in a row, and this is right after you moved the chains twice running the football, right? And then non-complimentary football, also, in my opinion, the first thing that comes to mind for me is Jordan Love throwing that interception inside your own 20. Like, that's not complimentary. So you're literally you're
putting the D right back on the field.
Yeah, after they just had a long drive. And I've heard a lot of people talking about, well, the defense sucks. They give up a long drive. It's like, okay, so you would rather them give up one play?
Was that the first or second interception?
That was the first interception, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty
That
sure.
one he threw into quadruple coverage.
Right. Now, we're not allowed to talk about that. His name isn't Joe Barry, okay? We're not allowed to talk about that. Yeah, it was – yeah, that
I don't even know
football. I agree with that. What's that, Jacob?
I don't know where he thought he was. He must have literally been one of those things where his blind side, maybe an offensive lineman perfectly took the defender that was standing directly where he wanted to throw the ball. And even then, if you take that guy out of the equation, there's still 3 more grown NFL humans that are right around the dude that you're trying to throw that ball to. That was like,
yeah. And 2-0 for this says maybe Matt spends too much time looking at his eyebrows instead of sticking to the run game. All right, that's enough of that. Let's see here. What's the trade deadline look for the Packers? I'll go ahead and give you – I've got a time machine, actually. I know exactly what happens.
Not a damn thing.
Well, that's the conclusion, but I'll tell you what happens. We called about every single person available. We gave them a call. I promise you that. No. The angry casual fan in the chat says, I think Goot has ruined our roster with analytics-based draft picks. I wouldn't say he's ruined the roster, but I definitely agree with you more than most, probably, casual fan there. I love that name, too, the angry casual fan. Oh, it always cracks me up because, we're so keyed in on these athletic profiles that I think we're really overlooking some of the tape. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I understand roster evaluation better than Brian Gutekunst, right? I'm not saying that at all. All I'm saying is, how many times have we been like, man, I really like this prospect. Oh, darn, he doesn't fit the athletic profile. So they're not even going to look at him like Puka Nacua. I got roasted last year because I was like, this kid Puka Nacua, people need to pay attention to him, man. Look at his PFF. PFF doesn't know crap. Look at what he's doing out there in LA right now. But because he had bad measurables, he dropped in the draft. Sean McVay said, yep, give me that guy. I'll put him split out opposite side of Cooper Kupp, and it's paying off, yeah. And Paul Robertson, you're right, man. All picks are based in analytics to a certain extent. Very, very true. And the word analytics does get thrown around very loosely today. There's no doubt about that. All right, let's see here. We got a super chat. Josh Martin, thank you so much, buddy. We appreciate the support. He said, people comparing 08 Rodgers to Love are crazy. It's a different league than 15 years ago. It's a passing league now. Quarterbacks come into the league better than a current Love. Love isn't getting better. I would consider it a passing league back then too, Josh, but I understand exactly what you're saying. The quarterbacks are definitely way more prepared and ready today. Like, to me, it almost seems like, when was the last time? Let me ask you guys this. When was the last time a quarterback was drafted and he sat for at least 2 years and then went on to have a good career in the NFL? Because Pat Mahomes only sat 1 year, and they were so quick to push God, what was his name? Alex Smith out, right? Who was an MVP candidate that year. But they seen Mahomes right off the bat. He's got it. I would argue that the last one was Aaron Rodgers. What's that, Jake?
Yeah.
Hurts didn't sit for more than just a half season, didn't he?
Yeah, Hurts was. Yeah, he was kind of thrust in really quick. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Josh, you've got a great point there, man. Quarterbacks coming to the league better than a current Love. I mean, there are multiple quarterbacks this year in a quarterback draft too, where many were saying, and Michael Lombardi included, saying Bryce Young was the only slam dunk. The rest are crapshoot, right? And then you look at Anthony Richardson. Granted, he just hurt his AC joint, but he was looking solid, right? CJ Stroud is the truth right now. Or as they say in the streets today, he is him. CJ Stroud is the man, dude. Like that. And what I was getting at the other day when I was talking about when the listener asked me to break down the quarterbacks, my final assessment was Bryce Young is the best overall quarterback prospect of that class, but CJ Stroud was the best thrower of the football in that class. And what I meant by that, he was accurate. He had a quicker release, all those things. But Bryce Young just played at such a high level at Bama and just seemed like he was pro ready, that they did kind of offset each other. But I gave Bryce Young the slight advantage there. But yeah, especially with this quarterback class coming in, boys, I'm telling you, it's loaded. It's absolutely loaded. That's what's going to suck for Love is if he doesn't get it together. The Packers will be crazy not to go out and look to get another quarterback in this draft, because you've got a Drake May, you've got a Caleb Williams. I'm not a huge Caleb Williams fan, and I know that shocks everybody, but his antics, like his style of leadership, I'm not a big fan of. And I bring this up to Jake Shavink one time. We were chatting, and I think he somewhat agreed. But what I said to him was, name the last quarterback that came in with this cocky attitude like Caleb Williams has. You know what?
Baker Mayfield, brother. Baker Mayfield.
There you go. There's one, right? Now, he's having success this year. We'll see how it goes, but he's on his fourth team now, right? And he was the number 1 overall pick.
I think of Johnny Manziel.
Bingo. That's another one, right? Where's that cat at? He's filming documentaries about how he screwed his life up by being drunk, and then he's at the end of the documentary shows him opening a bar and getting drunk. It's like, all right, bro, do your thing, you know. But yeah, so that's the big red flag for me with Caleb Williams is, you know, he just kind of, those type of quarterbacks typically don't make it at the NFL level. Now his talent is off the freaking charts. There's no denying that, which many people said that about Johnny Manziel, although I do believe that Caleb Williams is way more talented than Johnny Manziel. But again, that's a decision we're going to have to make. But Josh Martin, thank you so much, man, for the super chat. All good points there, buddy, for sure. It's always cool to dig back to in the past and kind of see, you know, how that compares with modern day here.
Hey, can we get the clip? Can we get the toilet bowl clip real quick? I feel like it's
this is
good time for that clip real quick.
I think please tell me I've still got it.
Because this is what we thought of Aaron Rodgers after.
Oh, no, I deleted it.
Oh, you did? Okay. Well, everyone knows what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, golly, man. I can't believe I deleted that one. I've got the stupidest stuff on here, too.
So there were a lot of people calling for Aaron Rodgers' head.
Oh, yeah, the toilet
early.
Yeah.
Really
I've got it somewhere here saved. I need to pull it back up. But, yeah, basically everybody was saying that Rodgers was, you know, and essentially what he said was that specific fan, poor Ted Thompson, man. Jacob, talk about something. Here, I'm going to pull this up. I gotta find it. I'm going to pull this up.
The best part is he goes, oh, no. So you got your Brett Favre there. It's going to take you to the Super Bowl. And this Aaron Rodgers over here, I mean, he's going to take you to the toilet bowl. And what's his name? His sister goes, yeah.
We'll talk about it or something like that.
He just basically goes.
Here, Jacob, talk about these PFF grades. This is all right. Grades. I'm going to go find that video right now.
Everybody knew this was gonna look how this looks here. Obviously, we knew that Ben Sims was gonna come in here with 82.3. He's got a passing grade of 88.7. Clearly, I mean, duh. He did this all on 9 total snaps. He did have a pass blocking grade though of 26.6, but he did have a run blocking grade of 70.5. So the guys, imagine if that pass blocking grade was even in the like 60s. Wow. Josiah DeGuara, a couple of scrub tight ends, are our top scoring athletes in this game. So that tells you basically about how well this game went. Josiah DeGuara has a 78.0 offensive grade, 73.3 for passing, pass blocking grade of 66.9, and a run block grade of 69.6. Kind of encouraging to see that out of him. AJ Dillon, our third best ranked offensive player with a 72.8 passing grade of 52.8, pass blocking grade of 77.6. Again, really great to see. And a running grade, 72.8. And Mr. Don Wicks, don't mess with him. Don't touch him. He only had 13 snaps. I feel like we definitely need to increase that because the guy has shown like he can definitely play and play well. 71.3 offensive grade. And then it kind of falls off from there, guys. Zach Tom, 65.6. It is a little bit encouraging that Josh Myers is our second best ranked offensive lineman with a 65.0. But here,
other than the penalty, he played well.
And look, his pass blocking grade, guys, 77.4, second to only, that's third overall besides AJ Dillon. But as far as your offensive lineman, this is a real quick one that really shocked me. John Runyon Jr., he's down there with a 57.9 overall offensive grade. Horrible, stinks. But look at this. Back to doing what he does at the pass blocking area. He has an 87.4 borderline elite grade there. And then that run blocking grade, he comes back to life with the 47 flat. You got that clip over there, Clayton, or you want me to keep blazing through this?
What's Jordan Love's grade there?
Well, you got to go down to the 14th overall ranked person, and that'd be our quarterback, Mr. Jordan Love. The truth, he is a 53 flat passing grade of 47.1. Running grade of 74.7.
Rodgers, who the only place he's going to take you to is the toilet bowl. And then you got Brett Favre, who will take you to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm just saying, we're not going to talk about it.
I'm just saying, you're a buffoon. I'm not going to talk about it. The amount of self-control Ted Thompson had in that moment, God bless him.
No doubt, man.
That was just like unabashed ignorance in his face. And of course, we won a Super Bowl 2 years later, correct?
Yes, that is correct, sir.
Yeah,
you are correct.
Okay. Thanks for finding that one, Clayton. I just wanted to pull that one out real quick.
No, dude, I would love to find that guy. Like, wouldn't you love to interview him? You know? Like,
oh man, dude.
Oh my God. Anyway,
I'd love to hear what he has to say about Jordan Love right now.
So with the PFF
grade, we'll get you to the toilet bowl.
When did this guy go to Ireland?
Exactly. Hey, look, seriously, look at Tay Wicks though, man. Tay Wicks, minimal snaps, only 13 snaps. I'm telling you, that kid, I think he's going to have a bright future with the Packers. Zach Tom, I think he held his own considering that Max did line up over him the majority of the night at a 65.6 overall grade. Like you said, with Josh Myers kind of showed up. The other one for me is AJ Dillon, 72.8. And again, that's what I seen. I know the yards per carry weren't there, but look at the run blocking grades, guys. Like the offensive line run block like poo-poo, right? And AJ Dillon somehow, some way still picked up those positive yards. I don't know if you guys seen it. His shoulder pad, the jersey on his shoulder pad was ripped. The jersey on his back plate was ripped. That dude ran his ass off, and they beat him up all night long. And he fought for every yard he got. I'm proud of AJ Dillon, man. And
me too. He wasn't even gassed until like the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
you saw the hands on the hip finally.
Yeah,
I mean, dog.
Yeah. So, all right, let's move on to as we approach the 48-minute mark. I'm sorry, Tim. What do you think about those offensive grades there, buddy? Get your take real quick.
I think it's a step back for Rasheed Walker against. I thought a matchup that he was going to kind of maybe show some strides in. That's disheartening. The lack of targets to Dobbs. I don't think Romeo Dobbs was targeted until the third quarter of the game. Jaden Reed, did he play?
Yeah, 29 snaps, believe it or not, man. But he was
Yeah.
like nowhere to be seen. And Dobbs too, man. Every time I seen Dobbs running a route, it was just when he ran out of the back of the end zone on that 1 3rd down, you
I
know,
couldn't do that.
Yeah.
I was just like, "What, bro? Are you high? Like, why
Yeah.
are you 4 yards out of the end zone?" And he's throwing his hands up like somebody else did something wrong. I'm like, "What? You want him to hit you in the second row? Like, what are you mad about, dude? You're out of the end zone."
We got to rotate that talent in more. Don Wicks needs more snaps
Definitely.
because his routes look crispy. I mean, the routes he was running, and when he was targeted, he had a reception. So I don't know. This is just low all across the board. I mean,
Yeah.
Ben Sims has a high grade because he had a play.
That one play, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, those numbers aren't going to do it. But to your point about A.J. Dillon, I feel like what we saw, I think maybe a lot of us got really excited about because this is what we expect from him. Whether
Yeah.
Aaron Jones is in that lineup or not, like, we need you to be the strong back. We need you to get 60 to 70, maybe 80-yard games here and there and keep us steady with the run game so we can do other things. But we haven't seen that from him. So we finally saw it last night. And I think that's kind of why it's even more of a gut punch that we didn't get away with the dub. But I'm with you, Clayton. I thought A.J. Dillon played his heart out last night.
Yeah, definitely. Cracks me up, dude. This stuff, I swear. Like the Angry Casual fan just had a comment and it said, "Would you like to show this or hide this comment? Because it may be inappropriate." I'm like, what did he type? He said Hopkins is still the man. It's like, yeah, I forgot. We're in a year now where we're not allowed to refer to people as men and women, I guess. I don't understand it. It absolutely drives me insane, man. Oh God, don't get me going down this road. Anyway, all right, let's do this. I want to hit this chat really, really quick. Boz in the chat, the silver lining. Hey, we got the good Carlson. We do got.
Oh,
Oh, Big Brother didn't like that, but hey, it is what it is. All right, let's go on to defense real quick. I'll read these off real quick. Rasul Douglas, I'm telling you, he popped off the tape to me. That dude, that game meant something to him last night. 90.9 defensive grade. 90.9. Run defense grade, 72.6. Tackling grade, 79.2. Coverage grade, 91.0. Absolute dog. Rudy Ford, second week in a row, right, that he's had a great game. Am I thinking right? Didn't he have a good game last week too, fellas, PFF-wise? Am I remember correctly?
He was up there.
Last three games he's had good games.
Yeah. 75.0. Run defense grade, 72.1. Tackle grade, 82.8. Coverage grade 69.4. That tackle grade really pops, man. When you go back and watch it, Jacob, that dude was not going to be denied bringing the ball carrier down.
He was thumping people.
Yeah, definitely. Rashawn Gary 71.4 with a run defense grade of 67.7, pass rush of 65.2, and a tackle grade of 74.2. Definitely played a lot better in the tackle game there for sure. Kingsley Enagbare 70.1. Lucas Van Ness 68.5 with 26 snaps. I'm going to tell you something, man. Lucas Van Ness, you're seeing him consistently in the upper 60s. And as a rookie, that is a really good grade for a rookie, according to PFF. I'm telling you, man, I think we've got us something there. I think by next year, you're going to see a heavier rotation of him with Preston Smith. Although Preston Smith, you felt like he played good in this game, right? It didn't kind of feel like that initially. And then you go back. I went back and watched the tape. And, man, I'm telling you that when you see him in coverage on tape, it's like that one's going to hurt the old PFF grade.
That's so not fair, though. That's so not fair. He got lined up twice on receivers, and it's like,
it really isn't fair, man. It isn't. So if there's one thing that I disagree with them on, them being PFF, this is definitely it right here, man. This is definitely it. So no way should that situation bring down his grade that much. And Jacob, you do what you got to do, Bubba. Quay Walker had a rough one, although it was just 17 snaps. He, got in the backfield a couple of times there. Obviously, still a great tackler, 77.2. Overall grade, 35.6. Coverage grade, 29.4. I seen that play. I think there was two plays that I seen where it was kind of a blown coverage by him. I had to go back and look at the all 22, which isn't available yet. But yeah, that's kind of how that popped. Devontae Wyatt, again, pass rush grade is 70.9. That's another one that kind of sticks out. Of course, run defense, again, it's abysmal, 58.3. And Jonathan Owens stepping in a pinch, 31 snaps, 65.1. That's a lot better than I expected, Tim, with Jonathan Owens, man. I think he played pretty solid filling in for Savage, didn't he?
I would agree with that. That's what he's here for, right? He's a physical safety, and that's what you need. So anything we can get out of him in the plus category is great. So I'll take it.
Yeah, for sure. Jacob, anything pop out to you there before we move on, Bub?
Yeah, definitely this Preston Smith, the Kenny Clark being way down there. I thought seeing him with that sack, I thought I saw flashes of him, and it's like, man, TJ Slayton, I consistently kept seeing him just barely missing on stuffing the run. And he was getting really mad at himself. And it looks like he graded out okay on 37 snaps. So that's a little bit more encouraging. I did see that it looked like, if I had to guess, if Savage isn't able to play, I think that Owens is definitely going to sneak in there and become the starter. So that's encouraging to see that Ford is progressing the way that he is. And then you guys in the chat, a couple of you guys talked about it. I can't believe how much of a leader Rasul has become. I want to see what his overall rank is in the NFL. I have to imagine he jumped up a little bit.
I'm glad you said that. I'm going to go look right now, Jacob. You keep talking.
Okay. I mean, he seems like that he is single-handed. I mean, if you guys remember going in, it's so crazy how the NFL works. Going into week 1, we thought, well, the cornerbacks room is stacked and deep as all heck. Safeties suck. We're going to be, horrible there. Linebackers a lock. We don't have to even worry about middle linebackers. The defensive line's crazy, and we have a great edge room. So the defense is going to be stacked. And now it's like the cornerbacks are dragging along, and they're getting dragged by Rasul Douglas, who's showing that he is just a dog. Safeties might be one of the best parts of our defense right now. The only edge that's worth anything right now is Gary, and we can't get him to play more than 30 snaps. And then on offense, I mean, look at we have a bunch of young talent, but it's so fast and we're so blah, blah, blah. The offensive line's the staple. We're so healthy for the first time in so long. Well, the running backs are so good. We're so deep at running back. Oh, good Lord.
Yeah, so
Rasul Douglas is by far the most consistent player on the defense all year, going back to week 1. And, holds his teammates accountable when they mess up. And I feel like he's the type of leader you want back there. I wish we had a couple more of him. He was an absolute steal from that Arizona practice squad. So
dude,
we're blessed to have him here.
And that's where you got to tip your cap to good old Goody. That was a great find right there. Rasul Douglas currently is the 8th highest graded cornerback in the NFL.
That's awesome. What about
an 83.7? Now, if you sort it by coverage, let's do this real quick. If you sort it by coverage, he has the 5th highest coverage grade of all corners in the NFL. Now, this is the part that sucks. Going back to defense, you got to go all the way down to 92nd is where Jair Alexander is at a 63.5. So, yeah, pretty rough stuff.
What about Rudy Ford? Where's he ranked?
Oh, let me see. I've just got corners pulled up. Let me add safeties real quick. So we'll sort it by safeties, okay? Just safeties alone. Overall defensive grade. Let's climb down here. Rudy Ford is 27th at a 73.7. So
better than I thought.
A guy that they basically gave a minimum contract to. I think he's making $1.5 million, something like that, roughly. He's grading out as a starting caliber safety, where there's typically 2 starting safeties, obviously, on every defense. He's grading out as 27th. That means he is a number 1 quality safety according to PFF, right? And let's see where Savage falls. I didn't even think to look there. Oh, looky there. Before we find Savage, we find Dallin Levitt with 7 snaps at a 65.5. Nice. Jonathan Owens, 62.3. Got to keep going. Darnell Savage, 95th. So to put that into perspective, Darnell Savage is grading out like a 4th safety on a roster right now.
Nice.
So, and that's the guy you gave $7.9 million to, while only giving $1.5 million to our other guy. So to Rudy Ford. So you guys know last year I wanted him to re-sign Rudy Ford to a 4-year deal, 3-4-year deal. You could get him on the cheap with some guaranteed money. and now you've got a solid basement as far as a safety room to build off of. Instead, they let him walk, sign him back to a 1-year deal, and of course, Darnell Savage gets almost $8 million in the bag. So it's tough, man. It's tough. But we're going to hit on special teams, but we're kind of out of time. Jacob, I know you got to wrap this thing up too. Let's get some parting thoughts real quick, and we'll get out of here. I know you got a sick pup back there. He's being a trooper right now with his little head wrap over there. You got to love it. Poor guy. That's a fashion statement, isn't it? Yeah. What do you got, Jacob? Parting thoughts, man.
I guess
I'll put this up here while you talk too.
Bowling.
Dude, he got like perfect. That's just perfect form right there. That looks like the.
Looks like he's planking.
I was gonna say, what's that other movie? Not Roadhouse, but
That looks like Pat McAfee at WrestleMania.
Yeah, or the Patrick Swayze movie where he picks her up and she goes flat.
Oh, yeah, Dirty Dancing, man.
Dirty Dancing, yeah.
I've never seen it. Yeah.
I don't watch that and Ghost back to back. No. I guess I'm just a little bit worried about the the defense, now that we seemingly have lost two of the quarterbacks without Quay Walker and without Devondre. I just don't see that defense being held together in a cohesive way. I think McDuffie did as well as you could ask him to do, and I think Wilson did even better than you could expect him to do. It's basically our fourth-string linebacker coming in there and trying to be, again, the captain of that defense. I'm worried about us being – I'm just happy that we're going into a bye, but I swear to little tiny baby Jesus that if they come out of this bye and Aaron Jones or Watson or somebody pulls a hammy, I'm gonna go find whoever this strength and conditioning guy is. I'm gonna walk right up to him and I'm gonna get my butt kicked by him. I'm gonna tell him exactly what I think.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll put this up here for this final barrage of comments. Zach, or 2-0 for this in the chat, says Zach Tom took lessons from LeBron James. Our boy Paul Robertson said just like slapping a piece of cheese on a burger. We got the angry casual fans that look like he dived into the plastic balls at Chuck E. Cheese. Number one Packer fan said, whatever works, LOL, use everything to your advantage. Hey, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying, baby. Let's see here. United Bates in the chat said, got to give him credit for the commitment. Yeah, I love it. And then I guess they wanted to get back to serious chat, which we're not about in here. So let's go ahead and take that off. All right, we're going to wrap this thing up. Tim, final thoughts, buddy.
Yeah, great form by Zach Tom there.
Yes. Tip of the cap.
I think we just got to keep our heads going into the bye. I think it's positive news that apparently Quay Walker's knee injury is not believed to be super significant, which, going into a bye, hopefully we see Quay back out there. I'm assuming McDuffie gets the green dot now. If Quay's not going to go against Denver, but I think it's way too early to speculate on that. I'm sure we'll have more to go on once we get some semblance of a official injury report. But another game that we should have won. We were in it, never out of it. It's disheartening, but it's only a bad mistake if you don't learn from it. So I think if we see more of the same old same out of the bye, it might be time to start having those uncomfortable conversations. But if we come out strong, like I think we can, Jacob talked about this yesterday, or I believe it was, either last night or last week, we talked about, at least 2-2 or 3-1 out of the bye, give us some momentum to try and salvage a halfway decent season here. But, we'll see what some rest does. Trying to stay positive. There are some positives, and I'm sure we'll see it on Chalk Talk. Hopefully Clayton's got at least one positive or two positive things we could talk about. I know you had a lot of plays.
There's going to be many positives on defense, and there was a couple of times I wanted to post some positives on offense, but I think we got one or two in there. But it was so hard, Tim. It's like, no, they don't deserve it, man. Like, it's just, you know what I mean? Like, the whole purpose of Chalk Talk is game flow and telling what happened and explaining why it happened. And, any positives you put in from the offensive side of the ball into that that Chalk Talk segment's just going to feel like it's forced, and you're not.
Yeah.
I don't want to say you're not being truthful. Obviously, it happened, but it seemed like the good plays that did happen didn't have a real impact on the game. Does that make sense?
Right. It's like you're not going to learn much if you keep your training wheels on your whole life. You gotta take the training wheels off, and focusing on the one or two things you did good in a bad performance overall is not good learning material. So I think you're right. Got to look at the mistakes and where we can correct them. So, and I think, the blame game is only worth it if the person you're assigning blame to you actually believe is going to make a change, or make an adjustment, or you actually believe you're not going to see the same thing another week in, week out. So I don't want to point fingers too much, and honestly, if we got to point at the players. Man, players got to execute. We always talk about that. So final thoughts is take a break, take a breath. We got a bye week coming up. We can have a little bit of fun this weekend, hopefully, and Chalk Talk on the way. Lot to learn, and just happy to be along for the ride, guys.
Yeah, same here, man. United Bates said, I love Chalk Talk. I learned a ton. I do too every time, man. Every time I do it, United Bates, I pick up on something else that I didn't know. And that's the whole reason I started doing it, before the podcast, was just sitting down, taking notes, breaking down the tape, understanding the terminology, understanding what the concept was, where were the checks, where did it go wrong, where did it go right. That type of thing is what being a football fan is all about, unless you want to fall into the casual crowd, right? Which I love. I had never used that term casual until I met Tim. And Tim, you threw it around a couple of times, and I'm really digging it. It's because it's the perfect way to explain to people that just go, run the ball. Why are we running the ball on back-to-back plays? Yeah, Larry in the chat said, congrats on the jersey, Murph. Go, Pack, go. Yeah, Cheesehead Murph. Obviously, like I said, we're going to get that autographed John Kuhn jersey out to you. I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys right now, it's going to be a couple weeks before we do another giveaway, but when we do, it's going to be a good one. It's going to be an autographed Paul Hornung jersey, okay?
Yeah.
So the Golden Boy. It's going to be a good one for sure. It's the Beckett-style home green jersey with his autograph on it. As a matter of fact, I think Mandy's like my buying agent, right? She is a professional shopper. If you don't believe me, I can show you my bank account, bro. She knows how to shop. But I believe it might be the one similar to mine back here. If you can see it, I don't know if you can see that or not, but see at the bottom, the accolades stitched.
Oh, nice.
So it's got like the, what is it? It's got his full name. It says the Golden Boy, 1957 round one, pick one, that type of thing. Some of his career accolades. So that type of thing. So we'll definitely give that away. I think it's the same jersey. I need to double check. It might just be just a regular home Beckett style, but I know it's green, and I'm pretty sure it's got that stuff stitched on it too. So Mandy always getting the best, but she's excited to make those purchases and stuff and get memorabilia to give away on the pod all year long. So pretty cool stuff. But Tim, thank you so much for your time, man. I really appreciate it. I definitely want to give a special thanks to Jacob. Thank you so much, buddy, for hanging out with us. If you're listening back this later, I know you got a sick pup and you carve out the time to hop on here. We really appreciate it. Everybody in the chat, you guys were awesome. I'm sorry we can't get to all the chats. It's just we're kind of growing to the point where we can't cover them all, but we definitely appreciate you guys in here hanging out and talking amongst yourselves and all that good stuff. And every now and again, I catch one in the chat where I'm like, man, I'm glad I read that because it's a way better topic than we had scheduled. So really appreciate you guys. And so let's get out of here. One special shout out to Josh Martin. Thank you so much for the super chat, pal. Again, United Bates, thank you for the memberships last night. Sorry the chat locked up. And obviously, Godsmack AR69 with the super chat that we didn't get to read last night. Really appreciate you supporting the stream. So we're out of here. Y'all have a great evening. We'll be back tomorrow. If I'm going to try to get Chalk Talk ready as soon as possible. It may take another day because I'm telling you it's going to be a long episode. There's going to be a ton. I'm going to see if Jacob and Tim want to get on here with me and do it. If not, I'll do it separately. But it might be a fun one to do live one evening where we can all kind of chat about the plays as we go through it. And we might have to break it down into 2 episodes. Who knows? We got this long bias, so we definitely got time to cover all that. So one last glimpse at that right there. Tim, work on your planking form, all right, man? Get it down. Get it down. All right, we're out of here. For those of you on the pod, thank you for making us a part of your day. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world. And go, Pack, go.
The power sweep. Actually, it's the It's the lead play in our offense.
Come to tackle, take the defensive end if he's over him. If he's not, you drive down the first man who is inside. Pull back and tell him to take the first man outside the offensive tackle.
No one shows. Go right by them and field inside.
If the YN has the linebacker taken out, he cuts inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, he comes all the way around. If you look at this play, what we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here, and try to run this play in the alley.